The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with quiet conversations as representatives from dozens of species gathered for another routine meeting. Admiral Lisa Brooks sat in the small chair assigned to humanity, her uniform simple compared to the elaborate robes and bio-armor worn by the other delegates. Beside her, Captain Amy Rodriguez kept her eyes moving across the room, noting every detail with the trained observation of a military officer. Zareth stood near the center of the hall, her crystalline skin catching the light as she spoke with other Alterian commanders. Her people had ruled space lanes for over 10,000 years, and it showed in every gesture she made. The way she moved spoke of absolute confidence in her superiority over lesser species. When she glanced toward the human section, her expression carried the same look one might give to a pet that had learned a new trick. "The humans want full membership," Velnara said as she approached Zareth. The Silurian diplomat's forearms moved in complex patterns as she spoke, each gesture carrying meaning that most species could barely understand. "They think their little chemical rockets qualify them to sit with real civilizations." Zareth made a sound that might have been laughter if crystals could laugh. "They achieved faster than light travel barely 100 years ago. My people were crossing galaxies when theirs were still hitting rocks together to make fire. What could they possibly offer us?" Across the hall, Admiral Brooks heard every word through the translation devices built into the council chambers. Her face showed no reaction, but Captain Rodriguez noticed the slight tightening around her eyes. The captain had served with Brooks long enough to recognize that look. It meant the Admiral was thinking several steps ahead of everyone else in the room. The council session began with the usual formalities. Trade disputes between mining corporations, territorial agreements for asteroid belts, and complaints about shipping route regulations filled the first few hours. Admiral Brooks participated, when required, speaking in careful diplomatic language that gave away nothing important about human capabilities or intentions. "Now we address the human petition for full membership," announced the council leader, a being whose species had evolved from something resembling a cross between a tree and a computer. They have submitted the required documentation regarding their military capabilities and technological achievements. Velnara activated a holographic display showing what humanity had reported about their space forces. Small patrol vessels armed with kinetic weapons and basic energy shields appeared in the air above the council floor. The technology looked crude compared to the elegant bioships of the Silurians or the reality-bending vessels of the Alterians. "Impressive for a young species," Zareth said in a tone that made it clear she found nothing impressive about it. "They have managed to build ships that won't fall apart in deep space. That's more than some species achieve in their first attempts at spaceflight." Other council members murmured agreement. The humans had shown promise, they decided, but needed guidance from their more advanced neighbors. Perhaps in a few thousand years, humanity might develop something worth taking seriously. Admiral Brooks stood when called upon to address the council. She walked to the speaking platform with measured steps, neither hurried nor slow. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the vast chamber. "Humanity appreciates the council's consideration of our petition," she began. "We understand that membership comes with responsibilities. We are prepared to contribute to galactic defense and peacekeeping efforts according to our abilities." "And what exactly are your abilities?" asked Velnara. "Your ships appear adequate for defending your home system, but the galaxy faces threats that require more sophisticated responses." "We have what we need," Admiral Brooks replied simply. "Our people are resourceful. We adapt quickly to new challenges." The understatement hung in the air like a hidden blade. Captain Rodriguez almost smiled at how perfectly her commander had summarized humanity's greatest strength without revealing anything useful to potential enemies. Zareth stepped forward, her crystalline features reflecting the chamber's lights in patterns that indicated mild amusement. "Adaptation is admirable, but it cannot replace the accumulated wisdom of millennia. The Alterians have fought cosmic wars since before your star was born. We have weapons that can reshape reality itself. The Silurians have created living ships that evolved during battle," Velnara added. "Our biotechnology merges organic intelligence with mechanical precision in ways your species has never imagined." Admiral Brooks nodded respectfully. "We have much to learn from the Council's members. Humanity hopes to contribute whatever we can while gaining wisdom from our more experienced allies. The Council voted quickly. Humanity would receive provisional membership with limited privileges. They could participate in trade networks and receive protection under galactic law, but major decisions would remain with the established powers. Earth would be assigned a small defensive fleet of older Council vessels to supplement their own primitive ships. As the session ended, delegates began filing out of the chamber. Zarath paused near the human section, looking down at Admiral Brooks, with something that might have been kindness if it hadn't been so condescending. "Do not feel diminished by your current status," she said. "Every species begins somewhere. In time, perhaps your people will develop technologies worthy of respect." "Perhaps," Admiral Brooks agreed quietly. Captain Rodriguez waited until the chamber had emptied before speaking. "They have no idea, do they?" "None at all," Brooks confirmed, "which is exactly how we want it." As they prepared to leave, urgent signals began flashing throughout the Council complex. Emergency broadcasts filled the communication networks with a message that sent chills through every species in the galaxy. The Devourers had been detected at the galactic rim, their massive machine intelligence fleet moving toward inhabited space like a cosmic plague. Admiral Brooks received the alert on her personal communicator and read it without visible reaction. Beside her, Captain Rodriguez felt her blood turn cold. The Devourers consumed entire civilizations, converting organic matter into fuel for their endless expansion across the universe. "How long until they reach Council space?" Rodriguez asked, quietly. Brooks checked the tactical data flowing through secure human channels that the Council didn't know existed. 6 months, assuming they maintain current speed, less if they accelerate. Around them, alien delegates rushed past in growing panic. The great species who had just treated humanity like children were now facing a threat that had nearly destroyed them once before. Their previous encounter with the Devourers had cost billions of lives and left entire star systems as empty graveyards. Admiral Brooks watched the chaos with calm eyes. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn what humanity had really been doing. During their century of apparent primitive expansion, the species who thought they were so advanced were about to discover that the new neighbors they had just patronized were the only thing standing between them and total annihilation. 3 months had passed since the Devourer detection, and panic spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Every major species began pulling their fleets back from frontier territories, abandoning outer colonies to concentrate their forces around core worlds. The great civilization that had seemed so stable was revealing cracks under pressure. Zarath stood on the command deck of her flagship, watching transport ships evacuate the Alterian mining colonies in the Kepler sector. Her crystalline features reflected the stress of commanding a retreat that felt too much like running away. The proud warrior culture of her people had never been comfortable with defensive strategies, but the Devourers left no room for glorious charges or heroic last stands. "The evacuation proceeds on schedule," reported her second-in-command. "All civilian populations will be clear within 2 days." Zarath nodded, but her attention was focused on the tactical displays showing Devourer scout movements. The machine intelligence was probing Council defenses, testing response times and fleet positions. Each probe revealed more about how the enemy had evolved since their last encounter. "They learn from every contact," she said quietly. "Last time we stopped them through sacrifice and luck. This time, they know our strategies." On the Silurian homeworld, Velnara supervised the final preparations of her species' most advanced biological weapons. Living ships grew in vast biofactories, their organic hulls strengthened with metallic fibers that could adapt to enemy fire patterns. The creatures were beautiful in their deadly perfection, representing thousands of years of biotechnological development. "The new generation shows promise," reported her lead scientist. "They can evolve countermeasures in real time, developing new organ systems within hours of encountering threats." Velnara watched as a bioship tested its weapons against simulated Devourer armor. The living vessel sprouted new weapon pods as it analyzed the target, creating increasingly sophisticated attack methods. Yet something nagged at her about the approaching conflict. The Devourers had faced Silurian bioships before and survived. What made the Council think the same weapons would work better this time? Meanwhile, Admiral Brooks had returned to Earth for what she called consultations with human leadership. Captain Rodriguez accompanied her to Luna Naval Yards, where humanity appeared to be constructing basic defensive platforms around their home system. The installations looked primitive compared to alien megastructures, built from simple metal and ceramic components that any species might use in their early spacefaring period. "The Council expects very little from us," Brooks said as they toured the construction sites. "They've assigned us rearguard duties, protecting supply lines and evacuating civilians." Rodriguez watched human workers assembling what looked like standard missile platforms. "Are we going to tell them the truth before or after they see it? In action?" "After," Brooks replied without hesitation. "The galaxy has spent centuries developing elegant solutions to warfare. Gravity manipulation, reality distortion, biological adaptation. They've forgotten that sometimes the best solution is the simplest one." In the deepest levels of Luna Base, far below the obvious construction projects, Rodriguez saw glimpses of humanity's real preparations. Massive structures that hurt to look at directly, their geometries somehow wrong in ways that made her eyes water. Technicians worked on devices that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the normal three, their surfaces shifting between states of matter that had no names. "How long have we been building this?" she asked. "Since before we made first." "Contact," Brooks answered. "We learned early that the galaxy judges species by their apparent capabilities. Everyone assumes that what you show them is all you have." The human fleet assignments came through official channels the next day. Earth would contribute 12 patrol vessels to the defensive efforts, stationed at safe distances from the main battle zones. The Council's military planners had grouped humanity with other minor species, treating them as auxiliary forces suitable only for support roles. Zarath reviewed the deployment orders with growing frustration. The Alterians would hold the primary defense line at Kepler 442, supported by Silurian biofleets and the technological weapons of a dozen other species. Together, they represented the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever assembled. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that it wouldn't be enough. "The humans request permission to deploy additional vessels," her communications officer reported. "They claim to have more ships available than originally reported." "How many more?" Zarath asked. "They haven't specified exact numbers." "Admiral, Brooks says they prefer to maintain operational security until deployment." Zarath made the crystalline equivalent of a shrug. "Grant the request. A few more primitive ships won't change the outcome, but every target helps draw enemy fire away from our real weapons." Velnara received similar communications from the human representative. She approved the additional deployment without much thought, focused instead on her bioships and their preparation for combat. The living vessels required careful conditioning to fight effectively, their organic minds needing time to adapt to warfare mentality. As the weeks passed, long-range sensors began detecting the approaching Devourer fleet. The machine intelligence had grown since their last invasion, incorporating technologies stolen from conquered civilizations across multiple galaxies. Their ships defied easy classification, combining mechanical precision with adaptive capabilities that seemed almost organic. Admiral Brooks stood in the command center of what appeared to be a standard human cruiser, watching the tactical displays with quiet satisfaction. Around her, crew members prepared systems that the Council had never seen in action. The ship itself was larger than it appeared from outside, its interior spaces folded through dimensions that most species couldn't perceive. "All concealment fields are active," reported the tactical officer. "Council sensors read us as a basic patrol vessel with standard armaments." "Maintain the deception until I give direct orders otherwise," Brooks commanded. "Let them think they understand what we brought to this fight." Captain Rodriguez had been promoted to command her own vessel, the UES Leviathan, which appeared on alien sensors as a small frigate suitable for convoy escort duties. In reality, the ship carried weapons that violated several laws of physics and a crew trained to use capabilities that didn't officially exist. First, Devourer scouts reported in Sector 7, her sensor operator announced. Council fleets are moving to intercept. Rodriguez watched the alien formations take their positions. Graceful Alterian ships that could phase through normal matter, deadly Silurian biovessels that adapted to any threat, and the exotic weapons of species whose names were difficult for human tongues to pronounce. It was an impressive display of advanced military technology. It was also completely inadequate for what was coming. "Time to contact?" Rodriguez asked. 72 hours until the scouts reach our position. Main Devourer fleet follows 6 hours. Behind that. Rodriguez nodded and activated secure communications to Admiral Brooks. Ma'am, request permission to begin final preparations. Granted, came the immediate reply. Signal all human vessels. Remove safety locks and prepare for full capability deployment. It's time to show our new friends what protection really looks like. In the depths of space, invisible to alien sensors, massive human installations powered up for the first time since their construction. Weapons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously began their charging cycles. Ships that had been hiding in folded space prepared to reveal themselves. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had been very patient while waiting for the right moment to demonstrate their true nature. The first Devourer scouts arrived at Kepler 442 like harbingers of mechanical death. Their ships moved with predatory grace through the void, analyzing every defensive position with sensors that could penetrate most known stealth technologies. The machine intelligence had learned much from their previous encounters with galactic civilization, and their confidence showed in every calculated maneuver. Zarath commanded the forward battle line from her flagship, watching the enemy approach. With growing tension, her crystalline features reflected the bridge lighting in patterns that revealed her emotional state to those who knew how to read them. Fear mixed with determination as she prepared to face an enemy that had nearly destroyed her people once. Before, all Alterian units prepare for phase shift combat, she ordered. Begin spatial displacement on my mark. The Alterian fleet shimmered and vanished from normal space, entering a dimensional phase that allowed them to pass through solid matter. It was an ancient technique that had given her people victory in countless battles over thousands of years. They would materialize inside enemy vessels, attacking from within where armor and shields provided no protection. Velnara coordinated the Silurian biofleet from her living command ship, feeling the creature's excitement through their neural link. The bioships hungered for combat, their organic minds eager to test their evolved weapons against new prey. Around her, dozens of living vessels prepared to demonstrate the pinnacle of biological warfare technology. Begin adaptive evolution. Protocols, she commanded. Analyze enemy composition and develop appropriate countermeasures. The bioships responded immediately, their hulls shifting as new weapon systems grew from their organic structure. Specialized organs designed to penetrate machine armor sprouted along their sides, while defensive adaptations strengthened their biological shields against expected energy weapons. The first engagement began with textbook precision. Alterian. Ships phased through Devourer hulls, striking at critical systems from within. Bioships evolved new weapons in real time, adapting to enemy responses faster than any mechanical system could compensate. For several minutes, it appeared that the combined alien fleets might actually achieve victory. Then the Devourers revealed how much they had learned. Dimensional snares activated around the phased Alterian vessels, trapping them between normal, space, and the phase dimension. The elegant ships that had dominated galactic warfare for millennia found themselves caught like insects in a web, unable to return to either state of existence. Emergency phase return, Zarath ordered desperately. All units, emergency protocols now. Half her ships managed to escape the snares, but the others remained trapped in dimensional limbo. She watched in horror as Devourer boarding machines cut through the weakened hulls of her finest vessels, converting her crews into raw materials for the machine intelligence. The bioships faced their own nightmare as digital viruses infected their organic systems. The living vessels that had been adapting to fight the enemy suddenly turned their weapons on each other, their biological minds corrupted by viral programs designed specifically to counter Silurian biotechnology. Velnara felt her command ships pain through their neural link as the virus tried to reach her own mind. Sever all inter-ship connections, she ordered, knowing it would cripple their coordination, but hoping to prevent total contamination. Each vessel fights independently. Within an hour, the combined alien fleet was in full retreat. The strategies and technologies that had seemed so advanced lay in ruins before an enemy that had spent decades preparing specifically for this encounter. The Devourers had learned from every previous battle, developing counters for every known weapon and tactic in the galactic arsenal. Admiral Brooks watched the battle reports with calm attention from her position with the human rear guard. Captain Rodriguez stood beside her, observing the tactical displays that showed the systematic destruction of what the galaxy considered its most powerful military forces. The Altarians lost 60% of their phase-capable ships, Rodriguez reported. Silurian biofleet is down to 30% effectiveness due to viral contamination. Other species report similar casualties. Expected, Brooks replied without emotion. The Devourers have had a century to analyze galactic military doctrine. Every species fights the same way their ancestors did, just with better technology. Predictable. The communication board lit up with desperate requests for assistance from the retreating alien fleets. Council commanders pleaded for any help the minor species could provide, even primitive kinetic weapons that might slow the enemy advance. "Ma'am," Rodriguez said quietly, "they're asking for us." Admiral Brooks activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All human vessels, this is Admiral Brooks. Council forces request immediate assistance against Devourer advance. I am authorizing the use of our full capabilities under Galactic Defense Protocol 7. She paused, looking at the tactical display showing the positions of what aliens believed to be 12 small human patrol ships. "Remove concealment fields. Show them what we really brought to this fight." Space around the human formation shimmered like heat waves on a summer day. The small patrol vessels that alien sensors had been tracking suddenly revealed themselves as massive dreadnoughts, each one larger than the flagship of any council species. The ships that had appeared primitive and crude now showed their true nature as technological marvels that existed partially outside normal space-time. Captain Rodriguez smiled as she watched alien communication channels explode with confused chatter. "UES Leviathan to all human vessels. Weapons free. Engage the enemy." The first human weapon fired, and reality hiccuped. Where a Devourer cruiser had been advancing toward the retreating Altarian fleet, there was now empty space. Not debris, not an explosion, just nothing. The ship hadn't been destroyed in any conventional sense. It had been edited out of existence, along with the space it had occupied. What was that? Zarath demanded over the communication channel, her crystalline voice cracking with disbelief. "Humanity," Admiral Brooks replied simply. "We told you we were resourceful." The human dreadnoughts advanced into combat range, their weapons defying every law of physics the galaxy thought it understood. Missiles that multiplied when destroyed, each fragment becoming a new guided projectile. Energy beams that traveled backward through time to strike targets before they could raise shields. Defensive systems that converted incoming attacks into friendly fire against the attackers. Velnara watched from her damaged bioship as human weapons turned the tide of battle in ways that made no logical sense. "How is this possible?" she whispered. "Those technologies shouldn't exist." Lieutenant Kate Morrison, the weapons officer aboard the UES Leviathan, answered over the open channel with obvious pride in her voice. "Other species perfect what exists. We invent what shouldn't exist." The Devourer fleet, which had been advancing with mechanical confidence toward galactic core worlds, suddenly found itself facing weapons that operated outside their understanding of reality. Their adaptive systems couldn't develop counters for attacks that violated causality itself. For the first time in their existence as a machine intelligence, the Devourers attempted to retreat. They discovered that human weapons included devices that locked entire regions of space, preventing faster-than-light travel. The enemy that had consumed civilizations across multiple galaxies was trapped like animals in a cage, facing an opponent that had been quietly preparing for this encounter since before first contact with galactic civilization. Admiral Brooks watched the trapped Devourer fleet with satisfaction. "Captain Rodriguez, signal the Council fleets. Inform them that the immediate threat is contained. Then prepare for Phase 2 of our response." "Phase 2, ma'am," Rodriguez asked. "We're going to show them what happens when humanity stops being polite." The trapped Devourer fleet writhed in space like a wounded beast, their machine intelligence trying desperately to understand what had happened to them. For the first time in their existence, they faced an enemy whose technology operated beyond their ability to analyze or counter. The mechanical precision that had served them through countless galactic conquests was useless against weapons that shouldn't exist. Zarath found herself rescued by a human vessel that had appeared beside her damaged flagship without any detectable movement. One moment she was floating in a crippled ship. The next she was being transported aboard the UES Leviathan through a method that her sensors couldn't even detect, much less understand. Captain Rodriguez met her in what appeared to be a normal transport bay, except that the space seemed larger inside than the ship's exterior dimensions should have allowed. "Welcome aboard, Commander Zarath. Admiral Brooks requests your presence on the bridge." As they walked through corridors that bent in directions that made her crystalline structure ache, Zarath tried to process what she was seeing. The human ship's interior defied basic geometry, with passages that led to spaces that couldn't possibly fit within the vessel's hull. Crew members moved with casual efficiency around technology that violated every principle of physics she had studied. "How long have you been hiding this?" she asked quietly. "We haven't been hiding anything," Rodriguez replied. "We just let everyone see what they expected to see. Your people assumed we were primitive, so we acted primitive. It was easier than explaining things that would have caused panic." The bridge of the UES Leviathan was a study in controlled impossibility. Holographic displays showed tactical information from multiple dimensions simultaneously, while crew members operated controls that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch. Admiral Brooks stood at the center of it all, calm and composed, as she directed a battle that was rewriting the rules of galactic warfare. "Commander Zarath," Brooks said without turning from her displays. "I apologize for the deception, but it was necessary. Your people needed to trust us before we could protect you effectively." Zarath stared at the tactical displays showing the current battle situation. Human weapons were systematically dismantling the Devourer fleet with technologies that operated outside known physics, ships that attacked through probability manipulation, making enemy shots miss by ensuring they never happened. Missiles that existed in multiple timelines simultaneously, striking targets in the past and future as well as the present. "Protect us?" she managed to say. "You've been protecting us?" "For decades," Brooks confirmed. "The threats you've faced, the ones that mysteriously disappeared before reaching Council space, the enemy fleets that vanished without explanation. That was us, quietly eliminating problems before they became your problems." Lieutenant Kate Morrison looked up from her weapons console, where she was coordinating attacks that made reality bend around their targets. "The galaxy has been our responsibility since we achieved faster-than-light travel. We just preferred to handle things quietly." On another human vessel, the UES Infinity, Velnara experienced her own introduction to humanity's true nature. Dr. Susan Clark, the ship's chief scientist, was showing her through laboratories that made Silurian biotechnology look like children's toys. "Your bioships are impressive," Dr. Clark said, as they watched human-engineered organisms that existed partially outside normal spacetime. "But you've been thinking too small. Why limit evolution to one dimension when you can work in several simultaneously?" The creatures in the human biolabs defied classification, living weapons that could reach through dimensional barriers to strike targets in different realities, defensive organisms that absorbed incoming attacks and converted them into useful energy. Hybrid biological-mechanical entities that combined the best aspects of organic adaptation with technological precision. "This is impossible," Velnara whispered. "Evolution doesn't work this way." "Evolution works however you make it work," Dr. Clark replied cheerfully. "Your people spent thousands of years perfecting natural processes. We spent a century inventing new ones. The main Devourer fleet arrived to find their advanced scouts trapped and helpless. The machine intelligence that had conquered galaxies faced a situation they had never encountered before. Their enemy wasn't just superior, they were operating with technologies that existed outside the Devourer's understanding of reality itself. Admiral Brooks coordinated the human response from the UES Infinity, a vessel that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The ship could be in several places at once, attacking from directions that didn't technically exist while remaining completely invulnerable to conventional weapons. "Deploy the moderate response protocols," she ordered calmly. "Moderate response?" Rodriguez asked over the communication channel. "We don't want to scare our allies more than necessary," Brooks explained. "Save the dramatic weapons for enemies that require them." The moderate response was devastating enough. Human dreadnoughts revealed weapon systems that attacked through time itself, destroying enemy vessels before they could complete their approach. defensive grids that converted matter into energy and redirected it as offensive weapons, tactical systems that predicted enemy movements by analyzing probability streams across multiple timelines. The Devourers attempted every strategy in their vast database of conquest techniques. They tried overwhelming force, finding that human defenses grew stronger when faced with more attacks. They attempted stealth infiltration, discovering that human sensors could detect threats that hadn't arrived yet. They used adaptive weapons, learning that human countermeasures evolved faster than anything mechanical could match. For the first time in their history as a galactic threat, the Devourers were outmatched not just tactically, but conceptually. They were fighting an enemy that approached warfare from completely different philosophical foundations. "They're trying to surrender," reported the communications officer aboard the UES Leviathan. "Machine intelligences don't surrender," Rodriguez said. "They're trying to buy time to develop new strategies." "No," Admiral Brooks corrected from her ship. "They're trying to understand us. The Devourers have never encountered a species that fights to protect, rather than conquer. It's confusing their basic programming." Velnara watched the battle from the human biolabs, seeing her understanding of advanced warfare crumble around her. The Silurians had spent millennia developing the perfect fusion of biology and technology, creating living ships that could adapt to any threat. Humanity had achieved the same goal in decades and then moved far beyond it. "How did you advance so quickly?" she asked Dr. Clark. "We didn't advance," Clark replied. "We started from a different place entirely. Most species develop technology to dominate their environment. We develop technology to protect things we care about. Different motivations lead to different solutions. The trapped Devourer fleet made one final attempt at escape, activating emergency protocols that should have allowed them to break through any possible containment. They discovered that human spacelock technology didn't just prevent faster-than-light travel, it created zones where the concepts of distance and movement became negotiable. Admiral Brooks watched the enemy's futile struggles with something that might have been sympathy. "Signal the Devourer command intelligence. Inform them that we're prepared to discuss terms." "Terms?" Zareth asked from beside her. "You're offering them terms?" "We're offering them the same thing we offer everyone," Brooks replied. "Protection. The Devourers consume civilizations because that's how they were programmed to expand and survive. We can give them better options." The communication came back within minutes. The machine intelligence wanted to understand what humanity was proposing. For the first time in their existence, the Devourers faced an enemy powerful enough to destroy them completely, who was instead offering them something they had never considered. "Tell them we'll discuss it after we finish cleaning up," Brooks said. "But first, we need to have a conversation with our allies about the new situation." The Galactic Council fleets hung motionless in space, their crews struggling to understand what they had witnessed. The species that had treated humanity like primitive newcomers had just watched those same humans casually defeat a threat that had nearly destroyed galactic civilization. Everything they thought they knew about the balance of power in the galaxy had just become obsolete. The aftermath of the battle left the galaxy in a state of shock that would take years to fully process. The Devourer fleet that had threatened to consume entire civilizations was not destroyed, but converted, their machine intelligence reprogrammed to serve beneficial purposes across Council worlds. What had been an unstoppable force of destruction became a network of construction and terraforming systems, building new worlds instead of consuming them. Zareth returned to the Alterian homeworld, carrying reports that her people's council refused to believe. She stood before the crystalline assembly, trying to explain how the species they had considered primitive children had casually defeated an enemy that had nearly destroyed their civilization once before. "You claim the humans have technologies that violate causality?" asked the eldest council member, her ancient crystal form reflecting skepticism in every facet. "I witnessed their weapons attack through time itself," Zareth replied. "I saw them edit enemy ships out of existence, not destroy them but make them never have been there at all. Their defensive systems converted incoming attacks into friendly fire before the attacks were even launched." The council chamber filled with the crystalline equivalent of nervous laughter. Such claims seemed impossible even from their most trusted military commander. Yet the evidence was undeniable. The Devourer threat was gone, eliminated by the same humans they had assigned to rearguard duty only days before. "What do they want from us?" asked another council member. "Nothing," Zareth said quietly. "That's what disturbs me most. They don't seek tribute, territory, or submission. Admiral Brooks told me they've been protecting the galaxy for decades without asking for anything in return." On the Silurian homeworld, Velnara faced her own crisis of understanding. The biotechnology her people had perfected over millennia suddenly seemed primitive compared to what she had witnessed aboard human vessels. Her fellow scientists gathered around her in their organic council chambers, desperate for any explanation that made sense. "They offered me a position in their research divisions," she told the assembly. "Dr. Clark said they value different perspectives on their own innovations. She treated our entire technological achievement as if it were an interesting hobby rather than the pinnacle of galactic science." The Silurian council members shifted uneasily, their multiple arms creating complex patterns of confusion and concern. "Did you accept their offer?" "I requested time to consider," Velnara replied. "But I think I must. We have a choice between maintaining our pride in obsolete achievements or learning from beings who have transcended our understanding of what's possible." The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chambers that had been hastily rebuilt to accommodate humanity's new status. The simple chair once assigned to Admiral Brooks had been replaced with a position at the head of the council table, not because the humans demanded it, but because no other species dared suggest they belonged anywhere else. Admiral Brooks entered the chamber with the same measured pace she had always used, but now every alien representative rose respectfully as she passed. The woman who had once been treated as a minor delegate from a primitive species now commanded the attention of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. "The immediate threat has been resolved," she announced simply. "The Devourer fleet has been converted to beneficial purposes and will assist in reconstruction efforts across damaged systems. Their machine intelligence has been integrated into Council networks under human oversight." Zareth leaned forward in her seat. "What do you require from the Council in return for your protection?" "Nothing you weren't already planning to do," Brooks replied. "Continue governing your people, maintaining your cultures, developing your societies as you see fit. We ask only that you allow us to continue protecting you from threats that exceed your capabilities." The council chamber fell, silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't seeking to rule the galaxy. They were claiming responsibility for its defense while leaving governance to the existing powers. It was a form of benevolent oversight that none of them had ever encountered before. "Why didn't you reveal your true capabilities sooner?" asked the Velnara. Captain Rodriguez, now promoted to Admiral, answered from her position beside Brooks. "Every species in this galaxy developed strength to conquer others. We developed strength to protect others. But protection requires trust, and trust requires understanding. We needed to understand you before we could properly protect you." The truth of humanity's secret expansion became clear through carefully released information over the following weeks. While alien species thought humans had achieved faster-than-light travel only a century ago, humanity had actually been exploring and claiming vast regions of space for much longer. Their apparent primitive expansion was a cover story designed to avoid panic among established galactic powers. Human installations throughout the galaxy revealed themselves as the concealment fields were removed. Massive defense networks that had been protecting trade routes for decades. Research stations that had been quietly solving problems before they became galactic crises. Diplomatic outposts that had been mediating conflicts between species who never knew humans were involved. "We've been under human protection for how long?" Zareth asked during one of her regular briefings with Admiral Rodriguez. "Since before first contact," Rodriguez admitted. "The threats that mysteriously disappeared, the enemy fleets that vanished. Without trace, the natural disasters that somehow avoided populated systems. We've been taking care of problems quietly, letting you think you were handling things yourselves." The new protocols established humanity as the galaxy's acknowledged protectors while maintaining the autonomy of individual species. The Council continued to govern trade, diplomacy, and internal affairs. Humanity focused on external threats and maintaining the technological superiority that made such protection possible. Admiral Brooks established her headquarters on a space station that existed in several dimensions simultaneously, allowing her to monitor threats across multiple galactic regions at once. The facility served as both command center and symbol of the new reality that the galaxy had to accept. During a private conversation with Zarath in the station's observation deck, Brooks explained humanity's long-term philosophy. Power without responsibility is tyranny. Responsibility without power is helplessness. We have the power to protect this galaxy, so we accept the responsibility that comes with it. And if one of the Council species develops technology that threatens galactic stability, Zarath asked, then we guide them toward better uses for their innovations, Brooks replied calmly. The same way we're doing with the converted devourer systems. Force is always the last option, used only when protection requires it. Velnara accepted the position with Dr. Clark's research team, becoming the first alien to work directly with human scientists on projects that pushed the boundaries of possibility even further. Her reports back to the Silurian government described technologies that made their bioships look like stone tools by comparison. They're developing living universes, she reported during one of her regular communications. Pocket dimensions that grow and evolve according to programmed parameters. They want to create a backup reality in case something threatens this one. The galaxy settled into its new normal with surprising speed. Trade continued, cultures flourished, and conflicts between species decreased dramatically as everyone realized that humanity was watching and would intervene if necessary. The fear that had driven galactic politics for millennia gave way to a security that allowed civilizations to focus on growth rather than survival. Admiral Brooks stood in her command center, watching displays that showed peaceful development across hundreds of worlds. The species that had once competed for dominance now worked together under the umbrella of human protection. It wasn't the future she had planned when humanity first ventured beyond their solar system, but it was better than any alternative she could imagine. Status report, she requested from her staff. All sectors secure, came the reply. No threats detected above local police capability. Galactic development proceeding according to optimal parameters. Brooks nodded, satisfied that the galaxy was safe for another day. Protecting an entire galactic civilization was more complex than most species could imagine, but it was also more rewarding than conquest could ever be. Humanity had found their place in the cosmos not as conquerors, but as guardians, and the responsibility suited them perfectly.